I'm Earl Brown, and welcome to another episode of Tell the Story, a Jazz Journeys production. It's been said throughout the ages that we're all on a journey to uncover and tell a story. A story that might be fresh in our minds, or one that has been left in stones, or lost with traces in sand. Maybe it's staring at us in mirrors as we try to find ourselves.
I am Mike Pleasant, a multimedia journalist from the city of Philadelphia. That's the city of brotherly love. I presently host a show, Philly on the Rise. It's been running for about 10 years. And what we do is that we do interviews. We have different comedians and performers and singers who come to our city. So we interview them, as well as there are local events that happen throughout the city, whether there's concerts, festivals, award shows. I got started with Philly on the Rise through my own grit and grind. I started with a small program on a radio station out of New Jersey. Then I graduated to a much larger radio station in Philadelphia. Then I actually graduated to hosting my own show, which is Philly on the Rise. And as mentioned, it's been running for 10 plus years.
What's the objective of Philly on the Rise?
The objective is multifold, if that's a word. One is to shine the spotlight on individuals and the positive happenings that are going on throughout the city of Philadelphia. Another goal is to promote the positive things that are happening in the city of Philadelphia.
You are also a member of Big Brothers, and you've mentored a lot of just young people in general. Tell me about that experience.
I definitely have worked with hundreds of the city's youth. I'm now 49, but I first started when I was 13, mentoring different kids at a camp that ran year round, different after school programs. I presently work now for the Community College of Philadelphia, where I'm still in contact with youth. So mentorship and being that positive role model for our youth is something that is kind of ingrained in a part of my DNA.
Now, considering that you were 13, how old were the young people that you were mentoring?
So the young folks that I were mentoring did start at the age of 9. As mentioned, it was a camp that ran year round. So during the summertime and on the weekends during the school year is when I had interaction with these different youths.
You also have a younger brother, and you've been a big mentor to him as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my younger brother and I are 13 years apart. So it's interesting. Definitely, I've been kind of a father slash big brother mentor to him. But as his career has taken off and shifted and grown, I've kind of looked up and learned some things from him as well. So we definitely have had a good and interesting dynamic throughout the years.
Tell me about your background and why you're so passionate about mentoring and being a positive force to young people today.
The reason I'm deeply passionate about the youth of Philadelphia is because I grew up in the projects of North Philly, spending 18 years there without a dad. So I definitely understand the trials and tribulations of what it's like growing up in the inner city. I don't want my younger brothers and sisters to kind of experience some of the same things that I did. So I am passionate in helping them kind of navigate life's situations and circumstances.
You mentioned that you grew up without a father, a dad. Tell me about that experience. And is he still around or still alive?
So I did grow up without a father, and I have to put a caveat that, unfortunately, in the 80s, there was a big drug problem, cocaine, crack cocaine in the inner cities of our country. So my dad, unfortunately, was on drugs a large portion of my life. So he was in and out, shall I say, a deadbeat dad. So I exactly knew where he was, I knew where he lived, but we didn't have that much interaction as I was growing up. It was not until my later years of life, in my 20s and 30s, that we actually developed a strong relationship and got much closer. Unfortunately, he did pass in my young 40s, but prior to him passing, we did get a chance to cultivate and generate a relationship.
So you were able to reconcile his the relationship that you had with your father in the past.
Correct. We did reconcile. It was up to me to have a forgiving heart. Again, understanding where he was and that he was on drugs and a quote unquote deadbeat dad. But I did reconcile probably in my 20s, just having an understanding and forgiving him and being able to move forward with the rest of our relationship. Forgiveness is super important. You don't want to carry around anger or hurt or malice in your heart because that's negative energy. So if you have that negative energy that may be there and that you're focusing on, then negative energy produces nothing but more negativity. So being able to forgive, not forget, because no one really forgets, but you have to have the open heart and the open mind to forgive and move on from there. So that's the same message I try to teach the others that I interact with. Forgiveness, if you've been wronged or if you've been hurt, forgiveness is definitely important in order to get over that hurt. Again, you may not forget because the pain is there, but you have to learn to forgive in order to get over that hurt and continue your relationship with that person.
When you look around at the young people today, it reminds me of a story that I covered when I was on the radio in Washington, D.C. It was called No Minor Crime. And it was really interesting because they were pointing out that minors were the ones that were committing those crimes that they were covering, but the crimes were no minor crimes. By the way, the minor crime, it showed a gentleman, a young boy, he was 15 years old. He murdered this guy. He went up to him, shot him in the head, and killed him. And when they asked him, why did you do that? And he said, well, he had to die one day. So I felt he owed me money, and that day was just as good as any other day.
When I look around and I see the senseless acts of violence that young folks get involved in, it definitely is very heartening and hurtful to see that. You know, when I grew up, there was violence, yes, but there wasn't senseless violence. And unfortunately, you know, it's what comes first, the culture or the music, right? That's the big question. So it definitely permeates in certain types of hip hop that our young folks listen to. But is that a branch of the culture? So which comes first? Is it the fact that we're in our hoods doing these things, or is it the fact that the music glorifies it? Uh, it's a tough question to answer. Again, all I can do from my perspective is try to talk to folks, try to get them to understand that, hey, listen, life is important. You have to have goals, you have to have dreams, you have to strive for those goals and dreams. You have to have a plan. You may not exactly have a plan now, but let's talk about what your plan can be for the future. And let's talk about a strategy on how we're going to execute those plans and what steps are we going to take. And I can be a role model because I was where you once were. I grew up in the projects of North Philly. I was exposed to drug dealing. I was exposed to seeing prostitution and a bunch of other negative things that can happen in our communities. I was blessed by making the right decisions to get out of that. And you also, too, can follow my footsteps if you desire to change your situation and change your life. I think it was the way I was able to escape growing up in the projects of North Philly is I was super focused. Definitely super focused on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go in life, and what I wanted to become. I saw my surroundings and I thought to myself, I don't want to be like this when I'm 20, 30, 40 years old. I want something different for my life. So being able to see those surroundings helped light a fire for where I want to do, where I want to go, what I want to become. Some of the folks that influenced me in a positive way definitely would be my mother. As mentioned, she raised myself by herself. I also took influence from some folks that were not actually in my life, but being able to read and understand their stories and where they came from and how they got to where they are. I took inspiration from those types of individuals.
You've been listening to episode 1 of Tell the Story with multimedia journalist Michael Pleasant from Philly on the Rise. But wait, there's much more to the story. That's coming up in episode 2. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and tell a friend to do the same. By the way, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, be sure to check out some of our other podcasts on this channel.